everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Village People. In the last video, you ended up voting for the Nephiling, so in this video we'll be taking a look at the Nephiling in terms of their history, their culture, and kind of what makes them unique as a playable race within D&D now, as a homebrew creation. So, without any further ado, let's look at the history of the Nephiling themselves. The Nephiling are a people that struggle very heavily with the inherent duality of their being. History doesn't have much to say about the Nephiling, but what is known about them is that they are most commonly created for a purpose. Just as an Aasimar is gifted with a drop of celestial blood, the Nephiling benefit from this higher plane influence. At the same time, they're pulled back towards their more chaotic aspects of creation by their own infernal bloodline. Scholars propose that Nephiling are created with a singular purpose, to be the embodiment of balance, and those that stray too far towards goodness or evil without the approval of their god or goddess run the risk of their own heritage pulling their mind apart at the seams. In Ravean, one such individual was a woman haunted by nightmares as she lived in a peaceful, sleepy town. Going mad from the prolonged and powerful essence of goodness that she represented, she went mad and mauled people like a wild animal before disappearing into the night. From a cultural perspective, Nephiling often develop within Tiefling cultures. Depending on the culture itself, this can lead for them to become a good aligned kind of being, adopting their virtue name with all of the other Tiefling people around them. However, soon the imbalance of being simply good and denying their infernal legacy does catch up to them, leading them to break mentally, often lashing out at those around them. Nephiling, however, then also often live alone as a precaution, attempting to walk the line between both evil and good, lawful and chaos. And if they do find themselves at the breaking point, at the very least, they only risk themselves as opposed to those around them. Culturally, there isn't really a Nephiling culture. They're alone. That is their entire culture, is they are secluded, they are wary, and there are folk stories that they've heard and that other people have heard of these individual tiefling people that have gone mad, and this extremely powerful being that most would simply just consider a tiefling that has found a way to embody one aspect of the good or evil side of their being. And this, most commonly, as scholars would propose, is due to the individual blessing of one of this individual's god or goddesses. Now, this is indicative of them fulfilling their purpose, potentially, and should they find themselves capable of fulfilling their purpose, they can find peace, and from there on, no longer suffer from this duality of being, as they've become perfected in a sense. From a traits perspective, Nephiling do have some basic traits by default, with additional traits being determined by their subrace or their variant. They do have resistance to radiant and necrotic damage, and they have the ability to cast the thaumaturgy cantrip at will. This kind of ties into reflecting just how alien they tend to be, or just how outside of the normal material plane these creatures are influenced. Like, they are either influenced by specifically the good or bad or both kind of upper or lower planes. They also have an extremely powerful force of charisma, and so they have a +2 to their charisma score, and then they also have a little bit more hardy body based on this extraplanar influence, affording them a +1 to constitution. They have some minor dark vision, You cannot discern color in darkness, only shades of gray, but they have dark vision out to 60 feet. And part of their individual signature capabilities is a metamorphosis. At level 3, and only starting at level 3, once per long rest, they can manifest a set of spectral wings for up to a minute. And they can end this transformation as a bonus action to end the effect early. And while they have this metamorphosis active and their spectral wings spread, they gain a flying speed of 30 feet, and once on each of their turns, they can empower one of their attacks with radiant or necrotic energy, depending on their alignment group. Now, this metamorphosis is also affected by alignment groups as kind of a subvariant. So, alignment groups are a little bit different. Nephiling gain different traits based on their current alignment group, and this alignment group can change over the course of their lives. They may be a kind of good Nephiling over the course of the beginning of their life, and then switch more to a neutral and then evil Nephiling over the course of their life, and their traits change based off of this as well. So, over the course of this change, they have physiological and magical changes that they undergo. Now, the first alignment group is the virtuous alignment group. This alignment group ends up kind of encompassing the lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, and lawful neutral aspects of alignment. Now, here's part of the thing for kind of my soapbox here. I do not like alignment as it's set up within the game, but I see a purpose for it. Alignment is a very helpful tool when you're starting to learn the game in terms of how another character may live or react or exist within the world. And so having someone that is lawful good doesn't mean that they have to remain lawful good, it just guides the player's decisions in terms of roleplay. So, the Nephiling are designed to change over time based off of however a player changes that individual character's categorical alignment group. And it's just so far the best system that I can come up with for this alignment group system to play in. But alignment does not necessarily always reflect the best way of having actual roleplay. Now, back to the alignment groups. The virtuous alignment group does contain the lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, and lawful neutral aspects of kind of alignment in and of itself. Now, this is because they tend to be virtuous to some extent. They tend to be a little bit closer to the higher plane influence in the way that these higher planes tend to operate. They can be expected to act not only on not only their beliefs, but for the good of the people around them. They can be expected to behave for the good of the people around them, and they'll often seek to support their communities and are said to have good morals or moral standing within the society. Slowly, though, as you get further and further towards neutral, this kind of changes across a gradient to some extent. And that's kind of how I wanted to highlight it. But while you're in your virtuous alignment group, your metamorphosis is augmented. When you manifest your wings as your metamorphosis, they shed bright light out to a 30-foot radius. And while transformed, once on each of your turns, you can empower your physical attacks with additional radiant energy. And this radiant damage is equal to your charisma modifier. Now, this stacks with your normal attack, right? So if you have your metamorphosis, you can empower it with radiant or necrotic energy based on your alignment group. This is kind of what it's talking about. So this stacking damage is equal to your charisma modifier as a pure force of your personality and will. Now, they appear as this aesthetically organized celestial feathered wings. The traditional angel wings on a tiefling body is what it would look like. But this radiant damage isn't just the only form of damage that you do have. As an action, you can take part of this virtuous burst. You can end your metamorphosis early to deal radiant damage to any creatures within the 30-foot radius. And this damage is equal to a number of d6 equal to your total character level. So, This is your last minute big bomb, right? So you can say, oh dear God, I don't think we're going to win this fight. Have your heroic moment where you fly head first into the dragon's face and then rupture and do potentially 20d6 worth of damage. Once this is done, however, you must make a wisdom saving throw equal to 10 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier. So at very high levels, this is 10 plus your proficiency bonus, which is at the highest point a 6, and then plus your charisma modifier, which is a 5 at normally for its most. So you have a 15-21 DC to beat. And on a failure, you have to roll on something called the Nephiling Madness table, or you gain a temporary compulsion. We'll get to the Nephiling Madness table in a bit, but let's look at some of the other alignment groups. The Blasphemous alignment group is the opposite end of the virtuous spectrum. Nephiling within the Blasphemous alignment group can be expected to act contrary to the public good. They seek to care only for themselves or to further a sinister agenda contrary to public welfare. The Blasphemous alignment group does include the chaotic neutral, lawful evil, neutral evil, and chaotic evil alignments. This kind of aligns them closer with the energies that suffuse the lower planes. The blasphemous influence that you have augments your metamorphosis to where your wings shed dark smoke out to a 30-foot radius, lightly obscuring the area around you within that radius. Additionally, while you're transformed, once on each of your turns, you can empower your physical attacks with additional necrotic energy, and this necrotic damage is equal to your charisma modifier. As an aesthetic choice, your metamorphosis state, these wings appear as devilish bat-like wings or demonic wings. You also have a blasphemous burst, similar to the virtuous burst. Out to a 30-foot radius, you can end your metamorphosis early to deal a number of d6 damage equal to your total character level of kind of necrotic damage. And then you make your save against this madness or gain the madness. Now, here's the tricky one. The neutral alignment group is very hard to be a part of. Nephiling do not often fall directly on the neutral alignment group. However, some would say that it's a true state of rest, seeing as the neutral alignment group allows Nephiling to avoid the pull of madness entirely. Many strive to reach this state, but very few ever actually achieve it. The neutral alignment group literally only includes the true neutral alignment. So you have to be specifically true neutral and then remain there. And that means that you lose out on quite a few different things. But once on each of your turns, you can empower your physical attacks with necrotic or radiant energy, your choice, and this damage is equal to your charisma modifier. Now, when you enter your metamorphosis state, your wings appear as a silvery gray mist or as colorful cosmic nebulas. This is kind of a you are not good, you are not bad, you just are kind of a choice here. Now, your neutralizing burst does less damage than at either end of the spectrum. As an action, when you dismiss your metamorphosis early, you can deal force damage equal to 1d4, right? It's a number of d4 equal to your character level. So already it's quite a bit less. So as opposed to having the opportunity to do 20d6 damage, it has 20d4 damage, which is quite a bit less, but at the same time, still nothing to, sneeze at. As an added benefit for being in the neutral alignment group, you don't have to make a saving throw. You just can do this, and you don't have to worry about gaining a madness. So, let's take a look at what the madness table might actually be. The madness table is limited. You end up taking a compulsion for a number of hours or days, depending on the one that you roll, but it is a random effect table for up to 10 options. So you can roll a d10, you could roll a d100, you could roll a d20 and kind of do the math to figure it out, whatever it would be. But on each of these rolls, you gain a very simple compulsion, ranging from having the overwhelming urge to only speak the truth, being unable to tell a lie, and happily sharing any secrets if you're pressured to do so. And it lasts for a number of hours equal to your charisma modifier, with a minimum of it being 1. Or it could be on the other end of the spectrum, where it could be possibly the worst, where you immediately fall unconscious but stable for a number of hours equal to your charisma modifier, with the minimum being 1. These can have very different effects in terms of being in the middle of a battle, should it come down to it, where if your last-ditch big Hail Mary attempt did not succeed in killing the thing that you're fighting, if you fall completely unconscious, unable to be awoken for like 5 hours, you might be screwed. So it's nothing to really take lightly. But it does afford you quite a bit more power based on your alignment. Now, the Nephiling do require quite a bit of roleplay capability, and you do have to be open to being flexible and work with your DM to figure out exactly how this might work. But I always would highly recommend learning how to play this character just a little bit more in depth in terms of developing them as their own identity and going forward from that perspective, seeing what they might do to try to avoid this madness versus just recognizing that they have this power. They might see this as a curse. They might see this as a blessing. They might see this as, I don't know why I am this way, I just am. It can be whatever choice you end up doing, but work with your DM regardless for the Nephiling for sure. So, thank you all for watching. Let me know which of the next few options that you would like to see. As kind of normal for this, the Nephiling stat sheet, description sheet, is in the Google Doc form in the description, and while you're down there looking at it, take a vote in the poll if you want to see any of the next 3 here available for you. We can look at the Cyclopeans that are available as kind of half Cyclops, powerful brutes. You can look at Sirens, which are the homebrew solution to playing a mermaid. Or we can look at the Grey Dragonborn, kind of the more militant and martial fighting Dragonborn than some of the other ones that you tend to find. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. Let me know which one of these you would like to see next, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!